Hey friends, today we're going to talk about engagement surveys and why they're your secret weapon to leveling up your career. Engagement surveys are a cause for a lot of stress, and they are at the center of most of the conversations I have with people who reach out to me and they're like, Christy, our culture's out of control, or Christy, we're growing so fast. I just sent a survey and it's a mess. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. There's really not a lot of helpful content out there, which is why I bring you this show and I built my community engagement academy. But for today, let's just get really clear on your mindset toward engagement surveys and how you're going to use them and leverage them to level up so hard. Okay? I don't know how this metaphor came to me this morning as I was thinking about this episode because this topic is so important. So metaphors just come to me. And this one, I think I'm going to run with it. So I want you to think of engagement surveys as a dragon. And dragons, according to your very average folklore, they can terrorize a whole village and basically blowtorch the whole city on fire, and everyone's dead or on their way to being dead, and everyone's screaming and running away, and it's chaos and anarchy. That's like the old way and method of doing engagement surveys, and it could have happened to you, and maybe it's felt that way for a variety of reasons. But at the end of this episode, you're going to think of yourself as the dragon tamer. You're going to have the dragon, like when the dragon sees you, it like bows its head and you like are the master of it. And you can like go up and give it a hug, and it can still blow down and torch a whole city if it wants to, but you're not going to use it that way. And it listens to you. And it's basically an extension of you to do noble deeds, okay? To save the city. Okay, maybe it's your protector to keep your city safe from being attacked by another tribe causing disengagement. You're going to use the dragon to your advantage, and the dragon respects and loves you because you have tamed the dragon. Okay, that metaphor works for me. You can do what you want with it, but no more are you going to feel terrorized by the engagement survey dragon. You own the engagement survey dragon, and it loves and respects you and wants to do right by you because it trusts you and you know how to use it to your advantage. So, all that to say, engagement surveys in the past may have been really scary for you, or maybe they haven't gone well and they've turned everything topsy-turvy and people get really upset and you get so much negative feedback that it blows your hair back and you don't know what to do other than to run out of the city yourself and quit and get a new job because what the heck way is up? Being comfortable sending and knowing how to, deploy and ask the right questions in an engagement survey are the key skill that you need to move forward in your career. And it's the reason why you feel so stuck and the reason you lay awake in bed at night, because it holds the answers into what's creating roadblocks and preventing employees from doing their best work. It has the answers to what would create stronger and more trust-based teams that have better relationships. And it has the answers to what's going to drive productivity and revenue so that you can show up to executive meetings and help them make super informed, data-driven decisions, which is going to feel so cool for you. But without engagement surveys, you're kind of flying blind. You don't have an idea of why people are quitting, why people aren't productive, and what's the general sense of yuck that is gumming up the productivity engine and causing people to quit. And if you don't know what you're doing when you're sending the survey, it can just create a whole bunch more work for you. So I'm just going to jump into a few ways to reframe what an engagement survey is in your mind when you're gearing up to send one. First of all, when you send an engagement survey, you're going to have to expect negative feedback. But here's the trick to getting it not to hurt. You need that negative feedback, and you can position this as these are the answers to the disengagement test. If you take the opposite of what people are telling us, and if we fix these things in the right order, then we will have an engaged workforce. So imagine when you get your negative feedback dumpster fire back, you should be thinking like, thank God, this is awesome. Our employees still trust that when we ask them these questions, they want to be open and honest and tell us what's wrong because they trust me to fix it. I also want you to keep in mind that it's not a personal attack on you as the HR leader. So here's another mindset hack. Pretend like you're a director of the movie of your workplace. You are not an actor, or you are not in the scene of the movie, and we're going to pretend that your movie is Batman, okay? You don't need to have watched Batman to know that the Joker basically just like tries to blow up the city every day and take people captive and just causes a whole bunch of trouble because he's a psychopath. I think he literally escaped an insane asylum or something. But pretend like you're directing that movie, because in the movie of your company, you need these critical scenes to craft the story and to make it compelling. Like for you to have a meaningful career, these are moments that are going to have to happen. Nothing that's good comes easy. So when you send out your survey and you get all this negative feedback back, Don't be an actor running around in Gotham City screaming because the bombs are going off and people are dying in the streets. You are not an actor in the movie. You should think, cut, perfect scene. We needed that scene to tell the story. You created that moment for employees to give you the feedback, and you need that feedback to do your job. So you should be thinking, good, this is a really critical step in us doing better. Part of my job is to look out for the people. In order for me to look out for the people, I need to know what's upsetting them. And this is why when you just pick something random from your surveys, or if you just pick an employee initiative, like something I see a lot is career mapping. We've implemented career mapping. That may not be what your employees were asking for, or we'll talk about this in a second with the hierarchy of needs. I'll link out to it in the show notes, but there's an order of operations. Just like your movie scenes need to be put in order for the movie to make sense, you need to make sure that what you're picking from your survey is the most impactful thing that you could choose. So what causes disengagement at every company is unique. And every company, although the patterns are generally the same, the exact issues are different. So that's why just because you implemented career mapping at a company before and it went great, doesn't mean you jump into it at the next company, because it might not be what they need and it doesn't make sense. So I will link out to the employee hierarchy of needs in the show notes, but that is your litmus test of figuring out, when you get all the negative feedback back, what to do and what to work on first, and how this becomes your HR roadmap for the whole year. But here's a cautionary tale too. Do not make up your own questions. This is the number one thing people come to me for, and they're like, Christy, we sent out a survey and it's a mess. It's like too much feedback. We don't know what to do. And if this ever happens to you, please reach out to me, because this is the thing I love to do the most. It's more simple than you think for an outsider like me to come in and untangle the questions that have been asked and find the redundancies and actually identify the patterns. But because you are likely not an expert psychologist, nor are you a regular survey sending expert, there's no need for you to make up the questions. Because when you make up the questions, and I've lived this as an employee, they get redundant, they overlap, they're written in a confusing way, they're kind of ambiguous, and we don't really know what you're asking, and we get frustrated because we either felt like we answered it in a slightly different way in a different question, or we feel like you didn't take the time to make this survey easy to take. So to avoid all of this, the good news is Gallup, who I will never shut up about, Gallup, has studied the workforce, all the workforces, like the collective workforce, okay? Think every industry, every company size. They have studied what drives disengagement for almost 5 decades. So they kind of have a handle on the employee experience and how broad it can be. So that's why you don't have to worry about figuring out exactly what questions to ask, because they've already figured out 12 questions that perfectly capture your overall employee experience and where to focus. And the really cool part is it maps directly to the employee hierarchy of needs. So in my community, I teach you how to score and figure out where you land per all the questions that you're supposed to ask. So check out the community. You can do a trial if you want to go deeper, but I'm going to read to you the 12 questions that Gallup has given us as best practice for your engagement survey. And you really shouldn't deviate from these if you don't know what you're doing. Because, like I said, the more questions you ask, the more employees start losing trust in the process. They start to drop off. Participation goes lower and lower. People don't finish the survey. And then for you, you've asked a bunch of questions and they're giving you all kinds of feedback, and it's just too much information. So these are the 12 questions that you should ask every single time. I'm going to read them to you one by one. Here we go. And imagine, as I read these to you, imagine Maslow's hierarchy, like a pyramid. And at the bottom of the pyramid are the first questions I'm going to tell you. In order, as we go up, the level of importance of you to fix it gets less and less critical. So these first questions are foundational. You have to fix this stuff first for anything else at the top of the pyramid of needs to make sense. But like I said, these questions map directly to this hierarchy, and I'll share both with you. So at the bottom of the pyramid, and the first question you should ask is, I know what's expected of me at work. Okay? I mean, if it was a snake, it would have bit us, right? How simple is that question? But it can mean lots of things, and that's why we send pulse surveys. That's next week's episode. Pulse surveys help you dig deeper into why someone may have scored this question low. But right now, you're just trying to get to the overall employee experience. So question number 1, I know what's expected of me at work. Question number 2, I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right. Number 3, at work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. Number 4, in the last 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. 5, my supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. 6, there's someone at work who encourages my development. 7, at work, my opinion seems to count. 8, the mission or purpose of my company makes me feel my job is important. 9, my associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. 10, I have a best friend at work. Side note, I often tweak this. This is the one tweak I easily allow is I have a friend at work. It's basically gauging you have someone who cares about you, that you got married, you're having a baby, you're getting divorced, you were sick and you were missed at work. It's that human connection. It's gauging like, do you have someone that you feel super connected to? I know best friend can feel very kindergarten. 11, in the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. And 12, this last year, I've had opportunities to work. Sorry. Sometimes I think I might be dyslexic and I'm like, I'll get tested tomorrow. 12, this last year, I've had opportunities to learn and grow. So that would be the top of the pyramid. And here's the reason that these are the questions is like, that is a very broad way of capturing, are there management issues? Are there transparency issues? Are there job description and daily role responsibility issues? Do we have communication issues? Are there bad team dynamics at play? We probably need to train our managers. Maybe our managers aren't equipped or they're overworked and the team feels overlooked. There's lots of stuff and feedback you're going to get from this. But as basic as those questions sound, you really shouldn't change them. Even as silly as in the last 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. There's a reason Gallup has phrased it that way. And they have studied the psychology of like the momentum of dopamine in the brain and how that makes you feel connected to your workforce and more likely to be engaged so that you go above and beyond for the company. So it may sound silly to be like, in the last 7 days, like, why would we say it that way? Well, because that's the threshold by which the average person needs to be told and checked in with like, hey, you're doing great. Good job. And again, that's just why you wouldn't change these very much. So these questions are research backed. That's the great news. Work smarter, not harder. Do not sit there with a blank cursor on a blinking Google Doc. You don't have time for that. You're so smart. You're needed for your qualitative gift of empathy and to get into those executive meetings with my revenue cheat sheet that I'll put in the show notes too and be like, hey, before we scale and open more locations, you goofy gusses, look, we're stuck on the bottom of the hierarchy of needs, and we scored lowest on people knowing what's expected of them at work. So in order for you to achieve your goals of revenue and growth, which I care about you achieving, we have to consider giving our existing employees a better employee experience. And I need budget to go investigate more and do that because we probably need to train our managers. And you don't have time to train your managers. So do you see how all of this is related in that, like, you have a lot on your plate and it can be really confusing to go get feedback while you're dealing with everything already kind of being off the rails, not being invited into executive meetings, laying awake in bed at night because you care so much. You've hired all these people or you've trained them or you've onboarded all of them and you care a lot. And you see good talent walking out the door and the executives are like, let's go faster. And you're like, what? Hold on. But without data, the executives are not going to listen to you. They don't care about your hunch, although 99% of the time, you are correct. But the test in this HR life for you, or people ops, or internal comms, is for you to tap into your power of influence and speak revenue to get the executives to hear you when you are either trying to get permission to send a survey, which is goofy. You should always be allowed to send a survey. That's how you do your job. That's like not letting the marketing team send emails or the sales team make sales calls or to decide where to spend budget, how to get budget. And it's not for parties. It's not for Grubhub gift cards and Silly Hat Day and Cat Day. What your investments are in, based on what your employees are saying is wrong, is to invest in training and revisit the way the work gets done. Like, I have the materials and equipment. I need to do my work right. If that scored low, There might need to be some investments in your manufacturing side of the business. Or if you have tech, it's like we don't have the right tech stack on certain teams. They're trying to do things with too little resources. So like your budget should be used to investigate deeper and solve problems way outside the scope of just like, oh, it's the Christmas party. Oh, here's your 1-year anniversary gift. That stuff is like sprinkles on a cake. You don't need sprinkles to have a delicious cake. Your employees are really wanting a delicious cake. That's the employee experience. If there's a crummy employee experience or it's just not being paid attention to, that's like just putting sprinkles on an empty plate and then showing employees like, here, I hope you work here forever because look, we have your anniversary gift. Here's a sweatshirt. They're like, I'm starving. I don't want to work here. Where's the cake? Where's the actual employee experience? I am going to go somewhere else because I'm starving. So like I said, if you want to learn how to calculate your score, it's very, very simple. There's a simple 5-point Likert scale, and I train you all of this, and I teach you from soup to nuts. Soup to nuts? That's not right. I train you from beginning to end how to score each question, find the average for each question, and then find your total engagement score overall as a company. And I include a benchmarking report so that you can go see where you stack up. And I even have a resource to help you have those hard conversations. It's like a script that, you know, if you're trying to get an exec to look at and pay attention to these results and they're like, we don't have time for this or stop sending surveys. I have kind of mocked up those scenarios for you so that you can be better prepared to hold your ground respectfully and gain their respect by speaking revenue and telling them that these are the answers to their revenue problem. This is not just the answers to why everyone's disengaged. It's the holistic, what everyone needs. For managers, it's a more productive team. For executives, it's more revenue and growth. And for employees, it's to not be traumatized by the place that they work, which is an experience we can all relate to. So your biggest takeaway is that you are supposed to drum up a bunch of negative feedback when you send an engagement survey. Don't make up the questions and get completely overwhelmed. That's already been figured out for you. But when you get your hair blown back by negative feedback, remember, you should be thinking, yes, my employees trust me to do something with this. And Christy is going to teach me how to score this really quickly. And there's also some AI hacks to go through, like qualitative feedback, that I'll teach you in my community. But you were built for this. You were meant for this. And you have to be careful not to take it personally, because 70% of what drives all of this anger and these spicy scores by us is our manager. We aren't even thinking about you. And if we are, we're thinking, thank God this amazing HR person is asking us, do you like working here? Because the answer is no. Let me tell you all the reasons. How much time do you have? Oh my God, we have too many meetings. I get asked to do too much. I never know what the priority is. My boss has a one-on-one with me that's very one-sided and they're kind of scary. I have a brilliant jerk on the team. It takes 17 steps to log a new deal in Salesforce, and it makes me crazy because I see a better, more efficient way to do it. Nobody listens to me. That's the stuff we're telling you. We are telling you the answers to the test, and we do love you, and we do think you're our friend. And I'm here to thank you if you've never been given a thank you. I was always so relieved when I saw a survey because I had a lot to say. And this is how you turn your career into a Cinderella comeback story for yourself, is that you lean into this hard part and you put on your armor in the right spots to remember, we are not personally attacking you. We are giving you the cheat codes. These are the negative Polaroid. Like imagine a photo being developed. If you develop the photo, you're going to have the disengagement picture. You're going to have the engagement picture. We're giving you the opposite, okay? It's like a game. And you can do this. And I know it's scary and hard to think that everyone's having all these feelings and this bad experience. But of course we are, because every company is. And the only way to make improvements is to figure out what's wrong first so that you can fix it. No more guesswork. No more laying awake at night. There's nothing wrong with you, but you are way too smart to not realize that engagement surveys set you free and they let you off the hook when you know exactly why we're disengaged, and you use the employee hierarchy of needs to figure out what to work on first so that you can make the most impact, okay? Great. For me, that was like going to church. I don't go to church, but I feel ready to climb a mountain, and I hope you do too. And I want to thank you for choosing this career, because if it was me, I probably would have been arrested because I get too passionate. But I adore you. I love you guys. That's why I built all of this, was to give you the disengaged side of the story that was missing from the narrative. Okay. Get in my community, Goofy Gus. If you're loving these podcast episodes, I would love to just meet you and talk to you and get you in with all the other people just like you who are making rapid changes at their company too. So join Engagement Academy. You can have a 14-day trial, and I will see you next week where we're going to talk about pulse surveys. Just a quick teaser. Pulse surveys drill in deeper into the parts of your engagement survey that said something wasn't quite right. Okay? Knowing the terminology is going to help you go a lot faster in your career. And next week, we got pulse surveys. Okay, take care of yourself, drink water, find a hobby, take a break. Don't make your whole identity your career. You got this. I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye.